Hey, what's up guys and welcome back. First of all, they're still going on, Sonic and all the others. Bastard Naruto, so there's nothing to worry about. Just give me some more time, they will be coming guys. However, here's another movie. In the meantime, until those are finished, what if Naruto was the last shinobi? So let us jump into a world where things go horribly wrong for Naruto and his people, where powerful individuals show the shinobi world that training doesn't seem to mean much due to power that is so easily accessible. So watch as Naruto crawl his way back from absolutely nothing, trying to gain back everything. Will he? Or will he die trying? Well, if you want to see, just sit back, relax, and I hope you guys enjoy. So let us leap right into this brand new movie. Death, destruction, chaos. You could smell it in the air. The Valley of End. That was the name this place once had. Given the fact that no one had called it that in a very long time, it still stood up, but it didn't make much sense anymore now, did it? Lying at the foot of the statues. Well, where the statues once lied, they were gone. Only pieces and broken pieces left behind. Lying there was a young man, his eyes fading back to a serene blue color. Blonde, spiky hair that was dirty and bloody. He was in pain. A great amount of pain at the moment. He lay there, his clothing was a mess. He had cuts and scrapes. However, right at his stomach area close to his heart was a hole. From that hole there was several black markings that was spreading, going to the rest of his body. This young man was Naruto Uzumaki. He's known for coming back from some of the impossibles. Some things that people believe that was impossible of surviving, but he always come back. The most unpredictable ninja. He was given many names throughout his time. However, now as he lie there, knowing that this wasn't something that he was going to survive. On this planet that was once known as the Elemental Nation, that housed thousands, hundreds of thousands of shinobis, civilians that range into the millions. So many people throughout time, so many that lost their life, but even then, they never truly went extinct. But here he was, the last shinobi of the entire Elemental Nation, and he was going to die. And then there would be no other. They will all be erased and forgotten by time. He could hear the battle raging in the far distance. But it didn't matter now, did it? They were all going to die. Hey, Kurama, he said. It seems like this is the end of the road. As a voice spoke up, a voice that belonged to the nine-tailed fox. Yeah, I suppose you're right. Kurama responded. We've been through a hell of a lot. We've done so much together. But it seemed pointless now does it? Come on now, said Naruto. There's no need to be a downer at this moment. Why not? We're going to die. And all that we've accomplished, all that we've tried, it is all pointless now. You can hear what is going on, you can feel. Their power slowly dissipating. They're all going to die. Well, at least, you can say goodbye to her for the last time. Naruto sighed. So there's nothing left, huh? He said. Well, there is something, Kurama said. Huh? What is it? Well, there are two problems. Firstly, you more than anyone know what this corrosion is doing to you. And even if I was to completely allow you access to my power, what the hell is that supposed to mean? You mean I've been using a small amount? No, it's not like that. It's called Baryon mode, where the both of us essentially fuse together, becoming one powerful being. But I threw that out the window a long time ago. Why? Said Naruto. Well, the aspect of that form is to slowly eat away one's life force. But given what you're facing, there is no point. I've already assessed the monster in front of you. Even if you were to gain full access right now, he will slaughter you in a couple of seconds. That is why I never truly bring it up. There was no point. Besides, you've gotten so ridiculously strong over the years, due to our bond deepening for a very long time now. That is why I'm able to give you access to this power. But back then, I could not. But the power that you would have gained back then, if I had been able to give you this power, your current power right now is still far, extremely far above that. But it all pale in comparison after what that monster did. He's just too powerful. None of us can beat him. So it's pointless, said Naruto. Yes. And also, if I were to use it, I would die. And I figure that, given what we've been through, it is only right that I die by your side. Out of all my hosts, which includes your mother and Mito Uzumaki, you were the best. I only wish that I could do something to help you. No human, no being should suffer the way you have. However, I'm sorry, don't be, said Naruto. We might not have gotten along in the first place. However, things were different back then, when we were against one another. But as time went on, things changed, and I stopped seeing you as a nine-tailed fox a long time ago. No, things were never the same after. We truly became friends. You became my family, said Naruto, and I'll always love you for that. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Within the mindscape, tears were leaking from Kurama's eyes, as the pain and sadness that he was feeling right now, words could not describe it. I'll give you some alone time, he said, as someone landed beside Naruto. She looked rough. Hello, my thunder flower, said Naruto. Tears were immediately in her eyes, her lavender eyes, as she looked down towards him. Her name was Reika. Otsutsuki Reika. Naruto, when she saw the black veins coming out of the entry point of the wound, she knew what that meant. Don't worry, I'll be back on my feet in a few seconds. It's not as bad as it looks. She chuckled. Even in the most harmless moments, you can still make me laugh. I guess there is no point anymore, she said. It's over. Reika was a tall woman with illuminous silver hair castrating down her back. It was always tied in an elaborate braid. Her skin was pale with a celestial glow. At the moment, her eyes were showing the Byakugan, having depowered herself down. A single horn protrude from the right side of her head. It was cracked, It was a symbol of defiance against her lineage. She was wearing a flowing, midnight blue kimono with white, celestial patterns on it. But it was in a rough shape right now, with a golden obi sash tied around her waist. As she looked down towards Naruto, she remembered what the elder had told her, the prophecy. It was when she started to truly realize how horrendous her clan was, when she saw the suffering that they put otherworlders through. The prophecy now played through her mind. The moon's shadow shall one day shatter the gods. It caused her to gaze upwards, and the broken moon that was hanging there in the sky, where orbit of pieces were raining down towards the earth. Was this it? She truly believed that it was a downfall of her people, something she would rejoice in, but it was a downfall of all of them. As she gazed upwards, a single tear fell as she tried her best to control it, but even in great sadness, her people had the ability to stow their emotions, but she let it out. As the tears came, she hugged Naruto. She hugged him and held on to him. "If this is our final moment, I won't leave your side," she said. "We will die together." "There is still a chance for you," said Naruto. "You can get out of here." "No, there's no point. We can't stop him. It was always you." Despite being much inexperienced then, despite being younger, you came in and you pulled us together stronger than ever. You gave us more hope. You gave people a reason to continue living, to continue fighting. That was all because of you. And I'll always love you for that. "But it's over," she said. "We fail." As Naruto winks in pain, she held him closer. The marks extended even more. Making his way was someone walking towards the two of them. "Well, isn't this a lovely sight?" he said. A tall man descended towards the both of them. Long flowing white hair. He had crimson eyes with concentric rings circling within it. His skin is a pale bluish white, adorned with black marking symbols of royalty. He was barely even harmed. He had a jagged horn protruding from the left side of his head, while a secondary, smaller horn curved around the back. His third eye possessed the Rain Sharingan, but only opened when he exerted his true power. Veros was a very ruthless, highly intelligent, manipulating being who believed that he was the best, that his clan was superior, and that led him down a path which now made him one of the strongest beings in the entire universe. "All these years you two have fought me, attacked me with everything at your disposal, use whatever tricks, whatever games you've used. But you can finally see that it was all pointless," he said, holding a relic in his hand, a staff, a very, very, very powerful weapon. It was what he stabbed Naruto with. It is said that the staff could kill anything. Doesn't matter what. It could even kill him. It was a weapon forged by powerful others, dozens of them, that put their own life force into the weapon. It was forged a very long time ago. A very, very long time ago. As the man walked toward the two downed people that knew that there was no hope, as they could not best him, finally Vero said, "I can put an end to you too, and continue on with my mission." Naruto gazed up at the man with so much hate in his eyes. However, he simply laughed as Reika turned her gaze towards him. They will never bow to you. They will always fight you. Wherever you go, whatever you do. Do you think I care? He said. I am the ultimate being now. A being of perfection. I'm unstoppable, untouchable. I am a god of gods. Do you think the mere petty squabbles and roaches across the vast universe is enough to put a stop to me? I will grasp each and every one of them with a binding hand and control them all. And then I will repopulate the Otsutsukis. But this time, I will repopulate them as the better, no longer following idiotic past ideology. They will understand the true and rightful way. But it doesn't matter now because you're both going to die. Veros looked up, only to see a red beam descending towards him. Boom! The beam proceeded to crash down with so much force, destroying everything. The next moment, brother, she said, another Otsutsuki standing there. I thought you were dead. He held Naruto and held her as well, teleporting them across the entire elemental nation. As they arrive, we don't have much time, he said, but I have a way to fix all of this. As he pulled two items out. One of them was a turtle, but this was no normal turtle, possessing a blue shell with purple and white skin. The turtle was able to send one back into the past. In his other hand was a blade, known as a separating blade. It is said that it could separate anything, life force, beings, anything. The Otsutsukis really had very powerful weapons. Reika was rather surprised to see her brother. She thought he died when he chose to side with them. Given the fact that her brother was the one that cracked her horn, always believing that the Otsutsuki way was right. However, things changed a long time ago. How did you survive though? She said. We don't have time, sister, he said. I have a way, and it revolves around you, he said, looking at Naruto. Given how much this guy hates him even after joining their side, due to Naruto being with his sister, well, what do you mean, said Naruto. It involves the both of us dying, now that I see the state that you're in. What? Naruto said, are you crazy? You can still take her and get her out of here. That doesn't matter. He wiped them out. All of the rebellion forces, they're all dead. All of his little monsters that he's created, those half-breeds, they wiped them out. So there's no point. But there's things that we can do to prevent all of this. What is that? Said Naruto. It's a way to send you back. Send me back. It's a tool. It can alter time, she said to Naruto. You want me to go back and fix this? Well, there are several problems there. If we send you back, you will still be bound to the younger self that you are. We can't afford for that to happen because I believe that theoretically, you would be forcefully brought to your younger self. If you be in the same place with him, your existence will eventually tie together. Time is a very tricky thing, and there are so many unknowns. And we can't send you back to your original time. You need to go back much further. You need time to get stronger after all. You've seen what he's capable of. You've seen what he can do. You're different. You're not like any normal person. You're not a Otsutsuki. But that's a good thing. Because you more than anyone else understand the benefit of training. And you're going to have to push yourself every single day. You're going to have to find a way to get stronger. Find a way to shatter your limits. I'll try to send you back as far as I possibly can. And you're going to have to do the rest. But in doing so, we need to sever your connection to your past self. What do you mean? Said Naruto. I don't understand. Sister, he said, looking over towards her, I need you to give up your life. It's the only way to save him. But the staff, yes, I know, it can kill anything. That is why I have this for 2 reasons. To sever his connection to time in that very moment, and to also sever his connection to his very soul. But the moment I do that, I need you to anchor his soul to my body, and then I'll send it back. Are you crazy? She said. Even if you do that, how are you sure that you'll be able to sever this toxin from ending his life? I'm not sure of anything, he said. But it's the only chance that we got, because if it doesn't work, we're all going to die anyways. He looked down towards Naruto. I never liked you, he said. You're telling me that now, and I still don't like you. But you're the last possible chance that we got. You're the only one that grew on this earth. I believe that you're the only one that can actually do this without time and spiritual access of your soul not being thrown into something that, well, is unstable. So it's the only way. We have to do this. There is no guaranteed. But I know, she said. Fine. She looked down towards Naruto. I would gladly die for you, she said. As her life would be used as a catalyst to keep the toxin from ending Naruto's life the moment they try to sever it from his body. Because the process would be sped up immediately without an anchoring soul there. It should be enough power to save off death from claiming him for only just a few seconds. She leaned down and kissed him. I love you, she said. I love you too, said Naruto as he started to cough. We have to do this now, it's getting worse. The next moment though, as her brother raised his hand, a beam ripped his shoulder, tearing his right arm completely off. Payback, I suppose. They turned to see Virus standing there. I was curious what exactly you 3 have in mind to do at this moment, so I took my sweet time coming here. Tell me, have you found a way to stop me? I highly doubt it. Can't you see there is no point? I'm your better brother, she said, looking over towards him. Do it now, he said, getting to his feet. She smiled at Naruto. Virus watched as she did something before she proceeded to claim her life, releasing enough energy that flew towards Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened as her brother used his one remaining arm and swiped downwards. Enough of this, Virus said. He held his hand up as his entire being was coated in red energy. The heavens seemed to open up. A godly amount of power rained down towards the 3 of them. Well, 2 that remained. Her body, due to her brother being there, had turned into pure energy that saved off death from Naruto. Her brother smiled as he felt it. She anchored perfectly. He activated the turtle that was there. He pushed Naruto's body and pushed Naruto's soul straight out, cutting off the very powerful toxin that would have ended his life. The toxin ended up going straight into him. It was the only way, as he had forcefully used his own power to pull it along. Severing something like that wasn't easy. The weapon was celestial, powerful enough to not be that easily destroyed. Even his toxin was tremendously hard to remove. It is said to be impossible. However, they just done the impossible. Gazing up to the sky, Naruto Uzumaki, he said, I wish you luck. As his body was reduced to atoms, as Virus wiped them all out. With that, he left the planet as a holder for the last remaining forces that tried to stand in his way, and they were gone. Meanwhile, Naruto was thrown and flipped and thrown all over. His body and soul was not connected, but, well, the anchor was there. Due to her brother's power, allowing the soul to be tethered to the body, it flew right into it. The nasty, life-ending wound no longer residing there. Naruto started to realize that he was being thrown all over the place, confusion marring him as he was thrown all around. He finally gripped onto something before he was pulled, and he blacked out. When Naruto woke up, he found himself lying down on the cold, hard ground. As he looked around greatly confused, not quite understanding where he was or what was going on. That is when all of the memories came rushing back. Having your soul ripped out and put back in was not a very good thing. Not to mention what they did was very experimental. There was a high chance that Naruto would have died, but her brother did not say that. However, it was the only option that they had. After seeing that Naruto was pierced and was going to die, as the memories came back, Naruto remembered his life. Growing up, being ostracized at first, and then defeating Gaara, befriending Gaara, the invasion, Orochimaru, the Akatsuki, the trip with Jiraiya, returning from that trip, going to hunt Sasuke down, going up against the Akatsuki. Every single information came returning back to him. Defeating Pain, getting so angry. Pain reviving the people that he killed. Madara, Obito, the attack. Everything came flooding back. He then remembered. It was on the moon. Facing off against the one that kidnapped Hanabi's younger sister, Tenori Otsutsuki. Naruto remembered that dreadful day. It had haunted him for years. It was then that he found out that Hinata cared for him more than just a friend. Unfortunately, they were never able to advance beyond that point. Theos had arrived. At the time, he wasn't as strong as he was when Naruto fought him. However, his strength was at that time far above Sasuke, far above Naruto, and far above anyone within the Elemental Nation. Even with Kurama, they fought him, realizing that a much greater threat had reared its head. After all, Hamura had left behind information for the Otsutsukis on the moon, and after realizing what happened there, Naruto gained an ally with the Tensegan. But even then, they were not enough. Naruto watched as Sakura and the others died, while he was too weak to do anything. He blasted a giant hole through the moon, completely destroying it. Naruto remembered, just like yesterday, flashback. Rage consumed him. As the golden aura shoot from every point of his body, Naruto ran with all of his might, trying to save her, but he wasn't fast enough. He watched as Theos ripped Hinata apart in front of his eyes. At the time, he did not know who the man was. With speed that Naruto could not keep up with, he sunk his hand in his stomach so hard Naruto felt every single ounce of his chakra vanish away. He hit the major point within his stomach. Naruto staggered back and got the beating of his life, palms connecting in his head, chest, stomach. As he staggered back, Tenori started to rise from the ground. As he was in a bad shape, immediately he fired a beam towards Theos, causing the Otsutsuki to turn and knock it away, like it was nothing. You worthless half-breed. I will annihilate you and the rest, he said, stepping forward. Tenori glanced up towards Naruto, knowing that they wouldn't win. Knowing that if this threat is to continue, they will all die. He focused. most of the power from the Tensegun. As he got to his feet, he ran away. That is what Verus believed, but instead, he circled around to get to Naruto. "What are you doing?" said Naruto in agony. "The only thing that might save, not just this world, but every other world. Move. I have to keep fighting." "Perhaps, but not now. You can't win," he said, placing his hand over Naruto as, due to the restriction on Naruto's chakra, and the verge of him passing out, Tenori had a lot of control. That was the last thing Naruto remembers. Tenori had sent him away, using the spatial aspect of the Tensegun. In the flashback, as Naruto lie there, knowing that Tenori wouldn't have been able to defeat Theos by himself, nor would Sasuke be able to stop him on the earth. After all, when he returned back sometime later, everyone was gone. The planet had been harvested. He had landed on a remote planet, far, far, far away. People that he did not know. They spoke words that he did not understand. It was so confusing. However, he was found by someone else. The residue of power that he gave off brought several individuals towards him. They called themselves the Void Rebellion. Hearing the name Otsutsuki, as Naruto remembered everything, Verus did not introduce himself as Verus Otsutsuki. He just said that he was a Otsutsuki and all of them should be kneeling. He then proceeded to attack them. At the time, Naruto did not know what he desired, what he wanted. However, he found out much later. Naruto joined the rebellion force, if only to get back home, as they were against the Otsutsukis, beings from different planets. Some planets that failed to survive, some of them being the only survivor, all sorts of them. They got Naruto back to his home because he told them that there would be a lot of people there that could help. However, when he got back, he found out that he was the last Shinobi in the entire universe. It was a time of depression for him. However, he had the Nine Tails with him. The only thing that Naruto could focus on was revenge, so he threw himself into that. He met a lot of people, like one of the generals of the army. Because of her vast knowledge on the Otsutsukis, at first Naruto did not know why until it started to click together. Because he wasn't allowed to see her. She wasn't even there. He had joined their forces, they were different ranks. It was a big militia. A massive army to take out the Otsutsuki once and for all. When he finally met her, Naruto lost his shit. It was Reika. He found out that she was a Otsutsuki, which made no sense. She was just going to betray them. However, he was calmed down by many that he came to know, as they told him all she had done. All she had done for them against her own people. He tried to apologize, but she didn't want to hear it. At the time, she did not really care for him that much. As the time went on though, and he helped her on numerous occasions, her power was great, greater than even his, as she never really spoke to him or gave a damn about him at first. She was just focused on stopping this once and for all. However, as the time went on, putting his life on the line time after time, almost dying several times, she questioned him. She wanted to know what kind of man that he was. He only agreed to answer them if she answered some of his own. That is when he found out that her own brother tried to kill her the moment she betrayed her clan. She was born as a royal within the Otsutsuki clan. She was high nobility. However, she was different. It was her emotion. As she started to question their existence, question her people's actions, their endless cycle of destruction, their disregard for mortal life, as she was sent to harvest. a planet chakra fruit. She witnessed the first-hand suffering at how her people was, how wicked they truly were, how entire civilizations crumble under her clan's rule. Despite her internal conflicts, she had remained obedient until she met a dying elder. With his last breath, entrusted her with knowledge of an ancient prophecy. The moon shadow shall one day shatter the gods. Something inside of her broke as she refused to complete the mission, instead helping a group of survivors escape. For her defiance, she was branded as a traitor when she went to her brother Otsutsuki Rising, trying to enlighten him. Well, he tried to assassinate her, which caused her left horn to crack. She barely escaped with her life, and she was hunted by her brother and the others. She disowned them, disowned her family, she disowned everything. They were monsters. That is when she found out about the Void Rebellion, an underground network of survivors, warriors, schoolers, those that survived the Otsutsuki wrath. With her knowledge of the inner working of her clan, she became one of their best formidable weapon, their best ally. And thus, as her and Naruto spoke, something started to kindle over time. They ended up falling for one another. Her brother was captured. She didn't want him dead. As much as she detests them, she believed that there was still a chance. Her empathy had even grown that much, despite what he tried to do. That is when they realized something. It was Naruto. His mortal life was not exactly changing. His features did not move. He was not aging. His body was still the way it was. Something was wrong. They were able to find out what happened. Turns out that Teneri didn't just send Naruto away. He altered Naruto with the last aspects of the Tensegon. Naruto wasn't able to see his eyes, but the moment his hands left Naruto's eyes crumble away. He infused the Tensegon power within Naruto's system. He was trying to make Naruto stronger but end up making Naruto's body ageless. That stopped him from aging a day since that moment, allowing him to basically become immortal. There were other things that could end his life, but age was not one of them. Naruto knew that he was granted this for a purpose, and despite his dilemma, despite his agony of the ones that he lost, he shall save the entire universe. However, while they were doing that for a very, very long time, their group was attacked by monsters. They were confused at first, beings that they never saw before. In the process, her brother got free, and these monsters, there was a lot of them. They nearly killed her, but her brother saved her life. Perhaps the years of trying to convince him otherwise had finally gotten through. He was still rather distrusting. However, he seemed to put their family ties above the clan. But the clan was no more. Behind the scenes, another very powerful individual, the one that took everything away from Naruto. Naruto wanted to go after him but lacked the necessary power at the time to do so. It was none other than Theos Otsutsuki. Theos was a very intelligent person, manipulative as well. However, he was so bent on believing that his clan was the superiors, believing that their actions of consuming other planets. You see, the Otsutsukis have a hierarchy. They were known as the monarchs. A few older elders that were there. People that ranged back in time that were able to tell the other ones stories. Stories about the god of their clan, a man known as Shibai, who transcended beyond what they are right now and became a god of God. Otsutsukis were paired off to harvest a planet chakra fruit. The fruit was then brought back and turned into pills, which made their members stronger, which made the monarchs, the elders, stronger. However, in the past there have been some to defy this, going on off their own, trying to get the fruits for themselves, such as Kaguya, such as Ishiki. There were others, but they were found and dealt with. The rest of them, though, like Momoshiki and Kinshiki, remained behind and brought the fruit back, and in return received chakra pills that made them youthful, immortal, powerful. However, Theos was different. Theos believed that what they were doing was not the right way. He believed that their clan was so great, that their blood was so great that they should become one with him. That is the only way. His theory, something that he's been doing for the past couple of years. That is the reason why he attacked Naruto and his friends. He's been going around searching for strong individuals and simply sucking the very life essence out of them. He absorbed the planets. He found it rather distasteful to do, but he needed to be much stronger if he was going to go after his own people. And time after time again, he started to eat his own, growing his strength behind the scenes. However, they caught on to this, but by the time they did, he was far too powerful. He swallowed the elders. He consumed the rest of the planet. And in doing so, he created hybrids of the Ten Tails, monsters that were as powerful in a much smaller form. And there was so much of them. He set them loose to find the perpetrators of the Void Rebellion and rip them to shreds. They fought these things for a long while. They went up against them until he found them, and he set his army upon them. The Elemental Nation was where the rebellion was. It was the furthest away from his literal empire, allowing them a vast distance between themselves and him. However, he arrived after one of his monsters reached. They tried their best to remain incognito, to hide away, but the numbers were simply too overwhelming, which led to a fight. And even after all these years, Theos had consumed so many of his own that his power broke all limitations on his form. And with the staff of death that could kill anything, those weapons were said to be the weapons of Shibai Otsutsuki, the god of their clan. Theos intended to rule the entire universe with an iron fist. All must fall under his rule because he was a superior being, thus as he saw it. And that was a tragic story of Naruto's life, until now, as he found himself getting to his feet, gazing around, trying to understand exactly where he was. As he focused on his senses, Naruto was so out of it that he failed to realize what was going on. When he finally got to his feet and take in the surroundings, he was hit with an enormous amount of power. His legs wobbled as he fully got back to his feet, quickly making his way in the direction where an epic battle seemed to be taking place. Naruto arrived on a mountain range. The place was destroyed when he saw the massive Ten Tails. Naruto blinked in shock, but then realized as he closed his eyes. He looked around within his mindscape. Kurama? Kurama, he said. However, there was nothing there. There was no one there. Naruto collapsed to his knees. Out of everyone else, Kurama had been with him since day one. And now he was... Naruto collapsed down until he felt something. A heat. Quickly getting back to his feet and walking deeper and deeper until he saw a kindling flame. He reached out and touched the flame and felt its warmth. A smile graced his features. As he felt it, it was Kurama, having his soul separated from his body And given the fact that he almost died, that blade seemed to have severed Kurama power as well. Because Kurama was no longer just inside of Naruto. Because of Tenere, Kurama became a part of Naruto. Yes, he became a part of him over the years as the seal had faded due to his never-aging body. He became a part of Naruto. The blade had severed Kurama, leaving his chakra behind, but a tiny amount had remained, as Naruto held it there in his arm, knowing that the kindle of the flame would reignite. It might take a long time, but it will, and he will be back, focusing his gaze on the outside world, as the Sage of Six Paths and his brother was clashing against Kaguya and the Ten Tails. Naruto stood there and realized exactly when in time he was sent back. So long ago, in the era of the Sage of Six Paths. As Naruto watched, remembering the story that Old Man Super Gramps had told him about their battle. The battle that ended with him and his brother sealing away their mother. Naruto folded his legs and sat down. His connection was cut, so even if his younger self was to die, he would not die. That blade, he could have truly used it, but it wasn't sent back with him. Neither was the turtle. Given the state that he was in a doubt, he could have clinged to any of them, so that was not going to change. However, Naruto knew things now. He knew a lot. Just because he wasn't tethered to this world does not mean that he wasn't going to change it. Throughout his many years of living, Naruto had changed. There was once a time where he believed that things could be solved in a peaceful way no matter what. But that was different now. The elemental nation was legitimately in his hands. And he could mold it because he knew the future. He knew the events that were going to play out. He knew everything. And this time around, he wasn't about to go and let everything play out as it should. Naruto waited as the battle dragged on for 20 more days. Given that they've been fighting for 40 days now, their power alone was a testament of what they were. But Naruto's strength was greater than theirs at this moment. His power throughout the years had reached greater heights than he could have ever imagined. However, one Otsutsuki alone was trouble. Theos had absorbed them all. Every single one of them, even those that were not ready to fight. He absorbed the council that lived for thousands upon thousands of years. He absorbed the essence of the ten-tailed beasts, which he used to make his creations. So even though Naruto's power was godlike, there was still levels above that. And this time around, he knew everything. He knew how to fix it all. The turtle was always stored away within the secret confines of the Otsutsukis, a treasured item that was hard to get to. Her brother risked his life to get it and to get back to them. To do this was his one and only chance, and Naruto was not going to fail. He watched as Kaguya got sealed away, in the process releasing that monster that would try to doom the world. Given what Naruto knew, you expect him to intervene right away, but you have to keep in mind that this was not the same Naruto. This was a Naruto that watched his friends died. This was a Naruto that became so depressed that he even tried to give up. And as you know him, he was never a person to ever give up. He tried to take the easy way out, believing that he would see them again. However, the only reason why he was still alive was because of Kurama, who told him that there was still a fight, and he was never one to give up no matter what. That is why he was so close to the Nine Tails, more than ever before. However, Naruto had been pushed to the brink and beyond. But something came to mind, as he remembered rather well. An old sage. That is what he saw the man as. However, he came from a race of people that had a high amount of intellect. They weren't fighters, but they were extremely smart. They coexist together on a peaceful world that was attacked by the Otsutsukis. Him and his family were the only ones able to escape. Their technology brought them a far distance. He told Naruto that time was a very fragile thing because Naruto had been depressed about trying to find a way to fix his wrongs, save his people. As Naruto and him had a conversation once where he told him that going back to change certain events might lead to some people not being born. It might lead to other catastrophes. Time always finds a way to correct itself. So as Naruto watched as Zetsu made his way off, he did not stop him. No, instead he stood there. Certain things must come to pass. The fighting between the Uchihas and the Senjus. It was what allowed the friendship to spawn between Hashirama and Madara. The building of Konoha. What would happen? A whole new event would take place. Perhaps those that he was actually fighting for would not even exist. Even though he wouldn't be a part of their life, he would like to see them prosper. So as much as he wanted to intervene, he had to let certain events take place. However, there was some that he would put a stop to. There was some that he would prevent. So yes, a lot of time he had in his hands. And in that process as well, he will get stronger. In his time, they had no idea that the other Otsutsukis were being absorbed. They had no idea that Theos was doing what he was doing. They had no idea that he would get so strong. They believed that they were confident in their strength. But something like that was not what they were expecting. But now things were different. And he was going to make sure of that. With that, Naruto headed off. Time skip. As the years went by, a lot took place. The two sons of the sage, which led into a war. Time and time again, there has been whispers and rumors about a man that wandered the elemental nation. Some claim that they met him. Some claim that they saw him when they were a child. And by the time they were in their late 50s, he still looked the same. He did not age a day. Some believe that he was a god. Some believe that he was the one known as the Sage of Six Paths. There was many rumors and whispers going around about this man as the years flew by. While that was going on, Zetsu was trying his best to twist events to make sure that Kaguya Otsutsuki came back. Zetsu was successful in corrupting Indra, allowing him to travel down a darker path. As Naruto had put two and two together after a long time, knowing that Zetsu has been alive the entire time, he found the beast and watched him on several occasions. As the years went by, Naruto watched many people get taken down. He intervened in most of these actions, saving many lives, which caused many people to revere him as a god, some kind of deity. He kept his name to himself, which made a lot of speculations, the people making their own input as he watched them grow. He was able to witness mankind accessing their chakra and trying to understand it. Even without Zetsu, there was still so much darkness in the world, so much corruption, so much pain. He wiped out thousands in his time, eliminating thousands upon thousands. Those that were irredeemable, those that could not come back from the edge, those that fall in. In doing so, he saved thousands, protecting the innocent. He was worshipped. They started to revere him as some wandering god. They started to preach his name. Naruto action was gaining a lot of reputation and a lot of notice as well, believing that he was a deity that oversee them all, and the fact that he doesn't age solidified their claim even more. As the age went by, people started to join on to this religion. as it started to push even more. Due to Naruto actions, as the clans started to form and isolate themselves, Naruto knew that it was time. Yes, it was finally time. Zetsu was overseeing the development of mankind, watching as they grow, watching as they produce. He was doing his best to cultivate everything in his mother's image, twisting the sense of morals and reality itself. Madara Uchiha, he was the rising up-and-comer. He was already clashing with Tobirama Senju and Hoshirama Senju as well. The reason he spoke Tobirama first because he knew of the man's great hate for the Uchihas, and he would try to use that as well to manipulate things in his favor. Zetsu was happy about this. It might take a long time, but soon enough, his mother will return, and nothing will stop that from happening. Zetsu has been hearing the rumors about the Wanderer. He had absolutely no idea who this was, or what was going on with this individual. He hasn't seen anyone of the sorts. Perhaps there was someone out there, but he has not noticed them, which was a bit worrying. A shadow loomed over him. Zetsu spun around, shocked that he was caught, not expecting this in the slightest. Black Zetsu was shocked. His main thing was detecting people from a distance. He was one of the greatest sensors, and there was no doubt about that. His senses range into far many kilometers. He could distinguish between different chakra signatures rather easily, and yet, somehow, someone snuck up on him so easily as he stood there confused. Gazing at the individual, he remembered the description of the person that they spoke about. So this was him, the so-called god. Zetsu decided to play the ignorance. "Who are you?" he said. "You don't know who I am, but I know who you are, Zetsu." That caught him off guard even more. "I know what you're doing. I know the manipulations that you set in place. Things that I had to allow you to do, like tampering with the Uchiha tablet. But I can't change certain events, because they have to go through." Zetsu started to back away. He was looking at this person with a new different light. He knew things that he should not. However, in the blink of an eye, Naruto stood in front of him. Zetsu tried to liquefy himself, but a quick pulse of Naruto chakra firmed his body up, shocking him even more. "That won't work," said Naruto. He picked Zetsu up by his throat. What are you?" Zetsu said. Confusion as he could not escape. "I am the one that is going to save the Shinobi world. And this time around, I am not going to be the last Shinobi." Naruto gripped his neck tight. Zetsu started to scream as flames ignite on Naruto's hand. Naruto had far surpassed the normal manipulation of ninjutsu. It's been a long time since he arrived to fight with the rebellion forces, and it's been a long time since he arrived here, back on his home world. Naruto was dealing with something much higher, known as Shinjutsu. Zetsu screamed violently. As nature energy, the flames weren't common after all. They were nature flames that incinerate every essence of Zetsu, removing him completely from the timeline. Once he was gone, Naruto stood there, overseeing the camp that was down below. He had to allow things to play out this way, with the Senjus and the Uchihas. Time skip. It's been a lot of years. As Naruto stood within his mindscape, the flame had gotten a lot bigger, but Kurama has not reformed. As the years went by, Naruto was worrying that perhaps the severing of his connection severed Kurama's mind. He already knew what he was going to do regarding the tail beast that roams around. That just needed a bit more time. However, he was afraid that he would never get to meet and see Kurama ever again. The only thing that seemed to be left was his chakra that was rekindling over the years. However, if that was the possibility, there was something he could probably do with the Kurama of this timeline. He just have to wait. Time skip. Konoha was formed. Madara betrayed the village and decided to run away after stealing the flesh of Hoshirama. Unfortunately though, Madara came to a stop. Having left the village parameters a long time ago, he didn't expect to see someone waiting for him. Having rekindled a lot of his strength, one of his eyes were completely useless now, as he rewrote reality itself. Madara stood in front of an individual that he's heard about, never actually seen. You're him. The one they speak about in religion. The one they call a god. And here I thought that you were a myth. But here you stand in front of me, flesh and bone, he said, using his one Sharingan to look at the man. Naruto religion had grown over the years. Perhaps it brought Naruto a lot of joy to see how much he was doing. See how much people respect his name. He wanted to bring them goodness after all. He allowed himself to be seen, never giving his name or anything about himself though. They call him the Wandering One. There was many names, but that one stood the most. The Wanderer, the Wandering One. Here Naruto stood in front of a man that by name alone was feared by thousands. Yet, Naruto did not seem worried. I can't allow you to escape. To continue your plan, said Naruto, already fully aware that Madara had read the stone. Believing what Zetsu had corrupted there, not knowing the truth. Madara was looking at this person in front of him and getting absolutely nothing. The Sharingan was one of the most powerful tools, and yet it cannot tell him what exactly this person was. He was clearly human, but there was a blockage that wasn't allowing him to see what was truly going on. In an instant, Madara moved in, realizing the threat, that the only way to get out of this was a battle. His feet already raised as Naruto blocked it with one arm. The Uchiha jumped back and released a massive fireball. Naruto swiped his hand upwards and split it in half. Naruto flew through the smoke, a brutal gut punch that had Madara coughing and wheezing. He flipped away. His power flared despite only having one Sharingan when the aura gathered around him as he created the top half of his Susanoo and rained blows upon blows down on Naruto. However, Naruto's speed alone was so impressive that he outpaced every single punch. He jumped upwards and kicked through the chakra construct. Madara was shocked as the thing shattered like glass. How was that? Boom! A fist rocked his face so hard, the teeth in his mouth cracked, launching like a bullet, breaking through a boulder and slamming into a tree. The Uchiha, the man that was feared and revered by most, was in agonizing pain as he got to his feet, only for said feet to be kicked out from underneath him. His body was kicked into the air only for Naruto to blink above him and deliver a bone-crushing kick that split the earth. The Uchiha lie within the center of the debris, unable to move properly, several of his bones broken and shattered. Not yet blessed with the special healing ability from Hoshirama, he found himself battered and bleeding on the ground. Naruto looked down towards him. However, the Uchiha did not seem upset. In fact, he was just in awe. He spoke, but blood came out of his mouth as he cleared his throat. I must know your name. The one that has the power to so easily put an end to Uchiha Madara. I suppose I can give you that. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. And Uzumaki. Impossible, Madara said. In this time, perhaps. But I'm not exactly from this time. Naruto said. He held his hand out as a Rasengan form. Naruto formed the Rasengan around Madara. The Uchiha body was capsulated in the center. The Rasengan was then infused with wind manipulation, causing it to grind and twist, ripping every sense of the Uchiha to pieces, erasing his body, erasing his legacy, erasing any future tampering. Naruto walked away, knowing that he had to do what he did. However, there wasn't much sympathy there for the man that almost killed his friends and ruined everything, just to find out that he was being manipulated by Zetsu. Time skip. As Hoshirama collected all the tail pieces, Naruto did not intervene, knowing that certain possibilities had to come to pass. As he stood by and as he watched, making things go the way they should naturally go. However, Hoshirama Senju was taken out. The man fight thousands because darkness never stopped, even after gaining the tail beast's power. The other nations wanted more. Hoshirama Senju allowed his people to get to safety while taking on thousands upon thousands upon thousands. However, it was not the battle that killed the man. Hoshirama had an infliction, a sickness, due to him overusing his healing ability. Constant going up against Madara in the past, and the warring state before he truly got a grip of his Mokitan. No one claimed his life. He died because of that. Not even the greatest medics at the time or healers could save him. Naruto could, but this was a natural event that has to happen. Allowing the second Hokage to step up, allowing the nation to rear their ugly head once again, and thus the first great Shinobi War broke out. The religion of the Wandering Man was hailed by many. Many spoke about it. However, in certain parts of the world, they were much more influenced and great there. As a war was taking place, and as thousands of Shinobis were trying to gain a foothold. After all, this war did not involve everyone. This was an attack. There was a second Hokage and Kumo as well, with the Kinkaku force and everything. Naruto watches the Kumo ninjas raid a land that did not belong to them, trying to subjugate people that come to see him as some sort of deity. He watches they cry out for help, but Naruto did not allow it to go any further as he arrived. The heavens quaked as the battle came to a stop, barely reaching the land. The Kumo ninjas, because of their distance, having to take more control from the outer space in order to block Konoha in, found themselves stopped by one person. As one of them gazed into the heavens and saw, beyond the lightning, beyond the thunder that boom, a shadow was there, first believing it to be nothing until this shadow somehow gripped the heavens itself, gripping and harnessing the lightning, twisting as he gripped it like it was some kind of whip. He brought it down and split the goddamn land, causing mass destruction and chaos in his wake. Naruto had raised his strength to unbelievable levels. Thousands of years, intensive training and breaking through boundaries, doing things that were experimental and almost even killed him. While he did not age, he could still die. It took a lot, so that was a testament of what Naruto has been doing. He was able to harness the natural force and use it. Naruto strike them down. He descended down enough for the people to see him as they dropped to their knees, praying to him like he was a deity. Naruto wished he could simply end every single war, but he could not. Certain events have to play out. Certain names have to be made. He wasn't just doing this for Konoha, but the entire world. They all deserve peace. All of them. The people saw him as they were in shock, witnessing their god, due to his rare occurrence. Soon after he left though, making his way, having not yet have Kurama to be there as a guide in his head. Naruto already know what he was going to try to do to bring Kurama back. But there was still some time that he had to wait before doing that. Time skip. Naruto could simply stop everything that was going on. But he just had to wait and let things play out, knowing that he could not twist time so much. He's doing things perfectly as it is, intervening every now and again. Some people just had to die and he knew that. But some people didn't have to. Naruto was thinking deeply on this. This is a time that he could really use some advice. However, he decided to go and see for himself, making his way off. As the time passed by, we find Naruto watching Tsunade Senju. And she wasn't alone. They seem to have recovered from the death of Tobirama. She and her brother, Nawaki, was there. As Naruto stood there watching the both of them, knowing that he was going to die, Naruto did remember a lot. He did not know exactly which mission, but he could simply focus on him for the time being. He remembered his conversation with Sasuke, while Sasuke was still bound to the village, when they spoke about Itachi. So he knew Danzo and what Danzo did as well. Naruto knew everything that was taking place, as Sasuke had told him the reason why he had killed Danzo. They were friends by then, so that was different. He knew that he had to make some changes. He might screw up a few things, but he couldn't allow her to go through that pain ever again. He knew that he was being selfish in what he was doing, but he simply did not care when it came to this. He had already seen his mother. It wasn't hard to get in the Uzumaki compound, despite the full jutsu that they had at their disposal. Naruto was simply better. He learned a lot. So much over the years. Things that he never knew before. And he also saw his father as well. They weren't even in the same village, as his mother had yet to be brought to Konoha, but she will be soon. As for that, it was during the Third Great Shinobi War that the Uzumaki clan was destroyed, while his mother was at the village. As he had to do things that perhaps ruined a lot of things. His father's reputation of becoming the Yellow Flash. He was not sure, but he didn't have much time left to do that. So Naruto decided to go along with his plan. It was after his 12th birthday that Nawaki was there as a scout. The mission wasn't supposed to be that dangerous. Orochimaru was watching the young boy as he made his way, leaping into a building. Boom! The thing exploded, shocking the man. Nawaki was blown to pieces. That is what he believed. What the hell? Orochimaru turned to see Nawaki standing there. Behind him, confusion marred his vision, as he didn't quite understand. Upon returning back, hearing about what happened, he was confused, as Nawaki himself did not know. Orochimaru did not quite understand what happened, as Nawaki was supposed to be dead. Tsunade wanted to prevent him from ever going on the field ever again, but he was determined and refused to listen to her. He was a ninja now, and he was fighting for his village. As much as she simply wanted to confine him to the village, she could not do that. She just had a long talk with him about being careful. Orochimaru was still trying to rack his brain, trying to understand as we find him alone. By all possible thoughts, Nawaki should be dead. Orochimaru felt something, and he blacked out. When he woke up, he found himself leaning up against a tree. Someone was standing there, his back turned to him. When the person finally turned, the Sannin immediately knew who this was. Many spoke about him like he was a god. Given the things that they said that he did, perhaps he was one. The Sannin never expected him to come to him of all people. Orochimaru. The man was rather surprised. Naruto did not reveal much about him, knowing that he hasn't even gained his title yet. You're him, the one they call the Wanderer. Your facial features and your marks stand out rather well. Yes, I am. Why are you here? Why do I, of all people, get this kind of face-to-face? You see, many people don't know exactly what I am. Some claim to, but they're all wrong. But I came to speak to you on your actions going forward. Naruto knew that Orochimaru had a lot of thoughts, lot of greatness to be unfold. But that greatness turned to darkness. It wasn't Nawaki's death that changed him. Far before that, it was when he was much younger, talking to the third Hokage, when he showed him the shedding of a snake. Something that would allow him to continue on living, shedding his skin, going on. As unknowingly Hiruzen had said something, perhaps that kind of made them immortal, allowing them to continue on shedding what they are, learning and experiencing new things. And over the years, Orochimaru had become a bit dark. The next moment, though, he found himself pushed up against a tree. As Naruto gazed into his eyes, the Sannin felt fear like he never feared before. I know the intentions in your heart, and I know that I should rip it out right now and simply prevent all of this. However, there is also goodness within that darkness. You can overcome this path that you're going down. A reality where you seek nothing but perfection to go on forever is only going to lead you down a path of destruction and place you before me in the end. And that is when I will show you no mercy. You don't have to go down that path. People here cares about you. You're hailed as a prodigy. You're hailed as the next step, the one to oversee and help his home. Naruto said, placing 2 fingers on his chest. Your heart is not completely blackened just yet. There's still a chance. I'm afraid that I cannot do anything about that. It is up to you. But I do hope you make the right choice. Because if you don't, I will see you once again, and when I do, I won't be leaving without your life. With that, Naruto simply vanished. Orochimaru collapsed down to the ground. Never has he felt such fear before. The overwhelming sensation from just his eyes alone had scared the living daylight out of Orochimaru. As he found himself questioning a lot in that moment. Time skip. As the heavens quake, as the rain poured down, an event was taking place. An event that would change a lot. Well, it would have, but not in this time. Madara was not alive to give. Nagato, baby Nagato is Renegons. However, Nagato was still alive. Yes. You had the wandering Uzumakis. Some that wander the globe, some that settle down in different areas, keeping much to themselves. And 2 Uzumakis found themselves in the land of rain, parents of Nagato Uzumaki. On this night, though, as Konoha ninjas were here because of a grand battle unfolding with the now newly named Sannins against Hanzo. Orochimaru had grown up a lot in the years, perhaps taking to Naruto word rather well. However, it has not yet fully been revealed on his intentions. there is still many time for him to go down a path of no return. So as we find, the Konoha ninjas, as Nagato parents were hiding, keeping their child safe, believing that it was a threat, they lashed out, and Naruto stood there. He did not intervene. As Nagato parents were killed, right in front of him, Naruto did not try to save them, because he had his reasons. While he could have done the same, but if he did what he did here, like saving Nawaki, well, things will be altered in a much grand scale, stopping him from creating a link between the future for the Land of Rain and allowing his dear comrade and friend to survive. However, when they saw what they did, as they realized that they was not the enemy but survivors, Naruto arrived and knocked Nagato out. As he picked up the young boy, he looked at the two Konoha ninjas, and the next moment the entire house went up in flames. A huge explosion that swallowed them as well. Naruto had ended their life without even blinking an eye. It was necessary in his eyes. When Nagato woke up to the remains and the destruction, confused and lonely, he set out on his own, afraid, as he met a young pup which he shared his food with. He then met Konan, who introduced him to Yaiko. Naruto spent the next couple of years watching them, as the event had truly changed them in ways that was for the better. But Nagato, he was still heartbroken over everything that took place. That is when they came up against a Shinobi outside of their home, having snuck his way in. After all, this place was used as a battlefield most times, but because of Hanzo that was coming to a stop, the man that named the Sanins. But before the Shinobi could take them on though, the man was riddled with water bullets, as he collapsed dead, standing there. The three of them were frightened as they saw the blonde-haired man. They had no idea who he was. The Land of Rain was isolated from most of the outside news, and they were young. Confusion crossed their faces. However, Naruto took the situation in stride, as Naruto became their teacher, not Jiraiya this time. Yes, offering to help them, turning the situation in that way. For the next couple of years, he trained them, making them stronger, speaking to Nagato, helping him through what happened despite him being there. And in doing so, they became the guardian of their home. Yaiko taking up the leadership, while no longer possessing the Rinnegan. Nagato was still a very powerful individual due to Naruto. However, that also meant Naruto stepped within Konoha without anyone knowing, already quite aware of what was taking place. The man never saw it coming. The root ninjas found their leader dead. Naruto slaughtered Danzo without any much of a hesitation. Time skip. Dan knew that he was going to die. Yes, there was no doubt about that, as he found himself taking deep shallow breaths, surrounded by the enemy. As he lowered his head, thinking about Snazzy, it brought a smile to his face. "Keep in mind I'll always love you," he said. A bright light alerted him though, when he looked up to see the enemies no longer where they were supposed to be. Dan looked up to see a blonde-haired man stand in front of him. The man raised a hand in front of his face. Dan expected to be shot down, but instead, a green light enveloped him. His wounds, his grave injured wounds, started to heal. The man then turned and started to walk away. Who are you?" said Dan. All the man did was turn and smile, before he vanished away. Upon finding out, as Dan was still shocked by what had happened, Orochimaru was there, and when Dan described the individual, as Tsunade had realized what he was talking about. So caught up that he didn't seem to realize it was the features of the man that everyone was praising. This so-called god. It was him. Orochimaru was shocked. Most of the time he wanted to believe that what he saw, what happened to him, was just a dream, but no, here it was. A reality. And the man was still here, watching and intervening when he should. The Sanin wonder, was he truly a god that saw the future and know what will happen? And that led him to question a lot. His mother had already been brought to the village due to her special chakra to become the next Jinchuriki. Naruto knew what was coming next. As he saw the nation, everyone was fighting. No one was allies. No grand nation were working together. This was the moment that they would strike. Konoha was defending itself on all possible areas. Naruto was not about to waste any time. He was going to put an end to it now. He knew that this might ruin his father's reputation. However, it's something that has to be done. Thus, Naruto pulled up in the office of every single leader on the entire elemental nation. Well, the great villages, that is. The first office that he pulled up in was the Raikage's office. A rather large, burly man, going by the name A. His son would eventually take this name. However, the third Raikage was a beast of a man. He simply gazed upwards when he saw Naruto, wondering who exactly he was, until he saw his features. Strange enough, there was a village near to the Land of Lightning that worshipped Naruto a lot, so he knew. However, he faked ignorance. "How did you get in my office?" he said. "I would like you to put an end to this war that is going on." He got to his feet. And what possible reason would I do something like that? To spare your man, to spare your life. Look, this is not a question. This is not a debate. This is just something I'm telling you that is going to be a possibility very soon. The possibility that you and thousands of your people will die by my hands if you do not put an end to this war. I'll be going to the other nations as well, speaking on your behalf from you exiting from this war. I'm not sure who you are. Of course you know who I am. Don't try to play me. You will lose. The Raikage had stopped his guards from intervening, as they were there, but Naruto did not seem to care, given that he stood there rather calmly. He stepped forward, his body already tense to drive, his finger clean through Naruto's chest. "Do you understand what I've said to you?" "No, you haven't understand," the Raikage said. "You have no power here, no claim to tell me what to do. And yes, I know who you are, this so-called god that has been running around. You even came after a few of my men in the past. It seems they're right about you not being able to age. But that doesn't mean you can't die." "Such ignorance," said Naruto. "Well, I'm not surprised," Naruto said, rather aware of his son before they joined up together. It was just something that they strive. The next moment though, the entire building collapsed. The Raikage was inside of a mountainside, in agony. Naruto stood above him. Naruto hit the man so hard that he flew across the goddamn village. His right arm was broken in pieces. He broke several ribs. His skull was bleeding, and all of this was from an enhanced punch that flew at the speed beyond sound, that hit the man with such a force, everything that he crashed through caused him great damage. Despite that though, the man was still very active, not blacking out as Naruto picked him up by his throat. "I told you that This wasn't a discussion. This wasn't a debate that we were having. This is simply something that you will do, or else. As his ninjas descended upon Naruto finally arriving, Naruto held his hand out and created a sight like a reaper and carved them up. It whipped through the air at speed that they could not follow. I'll give you a few days to call your people back, to bring your people home, but if you don't, I will return here and I will rain hell upon your village and your people, Naruto said. With that, he left. Naruto went straight to Kumo, visiting a young Oniki. As he gave him the same treatment, the Mizukage was next. Then the Kazekage was next. Naruto then stepped directly into the office at Konoha, surprising Hiruzen as the man gazed upwards. Naruto had simply appeared to them. Anvus immediately draw their weapons. I am not here to fight, as long as you listen to what I have to say. Hiruzen took the features of this man into action, recalling many things that has been said or heard. Are you the one they call the Wanderer? He said, realizing how calm this person seems, despite all those weapons pointed towards his vital area. Yes, I've already spoken to the other Kages. I believe they will start to pull their forces back very quickly. Once they do, I need you to pull your ninjas back as well. There will be no longer any fighting. We will stop at the second Shinobi War. The third is not something that I will allow to drag on. They've agreed to this, Hiruzen said, taking much precaution when speaking to someone like this, who had the gall to step into the leader's office without any hesitation, without any sense of fear. Yes, they will. If they don't, I will simply be more convincing next time. Something that they won't like. There will be no more fighting. Why now? Hiruzen said. I heard that you're immortal, that you've been here for ages. Why show yourself now? Why put a stop to it now? I have my reasons. Before you go, tell me, were you the one that saved Nawaki and Dan? Dan described you perfectly. Nawaki doesn't know how he's alive. Hiruzen kept a lot in his brain, remembering such events, while they were not that ancient, but still. He was a very smart individual, which caused Naruto to smile slightly. Naruto turned and looked at the man, before vanishing, showing that the Anvu weren't a threat in the slightest. Now this was a shocking turn of events. Unfortunately though, there were some that were just too stubborn. The Raikage took what Naruto did as a great insult, and thus, he would not listen. Neither would the Tishikage as well. So, enough! I'll put an end to it, stop! The Raikage said, as bodies of his men lie dead and deceased. The vengeful Naruto standing there, not showing any empathy, not showing any mercy. The Raikage right arm was gone. He was bleeding heavily. The Rasengan in Naruto's hand that was growing in size slowly dissipated. I warned you. There will be no more warning after this. Only annihilation. Naruto did the same thing to the Hidden Stone. Oniki was much quicker to give up, realizing that this was a being that they simply could not face. Several things happened when this took place. For one, the Uzumakis weren't destroyed. The team that he helped foster and raise within the Land of Rain found out about it, realized that a god had trained them, as everyone started to pull their forces back immediately. Yes, everyone started to pull back immediately, realizing that this was a threat that none of them could handle. Naruto prevented so much. He prevented Obito, so-called death, and many more. However, due to his actions, certain things would not happen. So Naruto had to put the, well, little kick in. He kidnapped his own mother, knowing of his father's interest already because he's been watching. Naruto kidnapped his own mother as he was walking with her through the forest, allowing her to leave behind strands of her hair. He spun around and blocked the kunai from Minato as the man moved and cut Kushina ropes. He attacked Naruto once again as Naruto clashed with him, the both of them jumping around, clashing through the trees until Minato struck him down. Naruto pulled out the explosive tag as Minato threw a kunai hitting his hand. Perfect, Naruto said, as he was swallowed in his own explosion. Watching from a distance, he watched as Minato picked his mother up and jumped off with her. A smile on his face, a happy one. As time went by, the Jinchurikis then were affected. Many did not know what happened, but many had an idea. They believed that it was a wanderer. Naruto took every single Jinchuriki away from their home and removed the tail pieces. However, he saved their life, actually using nature engine to do so. Due to a lot of time Naruto had spent 1,000 years only cultivating nature energy. The Toad was aware of him. He was not quite aware who Naruto was, but he was aware of Naruto's presence. They spoke together. 1,000 years off, focusing on how to truly master nature energy, allowing Naruto to tap into it without much of a hesitation. In doing so, Naruto got something on his forehead. It was an alteration of his very genetics, due to his body becoming one with nature, making him a literal sage, allowing his power to rise to unbelievable heights. Naruto trained for another 3,000 years straight, pushing himself daily, allowing himself to learn everything. He created thousands of techniques, thousands of jutsus. It was really lonely. However, he held on to the one thing, knowing that they would be there. All of them. And the woman that he loved the most. He would just have to convince her who he was. Yet he had no idea just how exactly he was going to do that. When they first met, she wasn't exactly the nicest person, but he shook it off. He would deal with that once he get there. If he's correct, she's left her planet some time ago already. She's already betrayed her people, already become a traitor in their eyes. All of this was going on while the Elemental Nation wasn't aware. After all, they could not go into space. But Naruto has long since learned how to prevent the lack of oxygen from killing him, transcending normal weakness of the human body. As Naruto was looking at a portrait, having someone painted for him some time ago, it was Reika on it. A smile was on his face. Every time he looked at her, she was the one for him. And this time around, they would get to be together, happy and in love. Naruto said to himself, after all, he was the one that made the impossible possible. So surely he will be able to convince her. Kushina was taken. There wasn't much Minato could do about it. As Naruto brought her back safely though, without revealing too much. And he was right. Minato did develop the jutsu, but because the war had come to an end, his name wasn't as great as it was in the past, but his parents were together. And the fourth Hokage was Dan. Yes, Dan. Having been older than Minato, given his rather long, grasping foothold in everything, Dan was given the title of the fourth Hokage. Naruto watched everyone around him from a distance as none of them knew that he was there. It seems Orochimaru took to his word With Danzo now dead, Orochimaru took over, the leader of Root. But unlike Danzo, he was more open with Hiruzen, as Hiruzen allowed him to continue the training and the selection of his Root agents. There was still things that he was doing, but at least it wasn't as bad as the path that he went down. As Dan became the Hokage and, well, Tsunade was expecting. She was gonna have a child. Something that she was never able to do in the other time. Naruto watched the changes that he made and he was quite happy about them. People had to die, people had to suffer, but still, this was better. This felt right. Without the Nine Tails, his mother was freely able to... It seems like things did change after all, because he wasn't born in this timeline. Instead, they had a girl. Her name was Mito Uzumaki. Naruto saved Hinata's mother, preventing the sickness from killing her. While many believe that Tsunade was the greatest medical ninjutsu user, she paled in comparison. Naruto could revive someone from the dead. It was something very hard to do, but he could. Naruto watched as the world changed in a very greater way. Allies were forged. Without the power of the tail beasts, many had to go back to their roots, knowing that they lacked certain power to crush their enemies. A few squabbles tried to break out, but Naruto wiped them out before they could reach too far. Despite him stop intervening years ago, the world still believed that he was there watching. His name had even gotten greater, much greater, while they still did not know his actual name, except for the ones that he trained. As for them, with Danzo not interfering, Hanzo became partners with the group that was trying to help his home reach new heights. Working together, the Land of Rain has never been greater, and Konan get to be happy with Yaiko, while Nagato start to develop a romantic interest in a girl of their group, a girl within the Akatsuki organization. Now that name wasn't being used for nefarious purposes. As for the tail beasts, Naruto created a new home for them, using spatial manipulation. Fuinjutsu timed spatial markings. He was able to isolate them in a different pocket dimension that was similar to Earth, but inaccessible to any humans. Only to him. A place where they could frolic. A place that suited every one of their environments. The only thing that he did was take a sample of the Nine Tails chakra in order to forge something together inside of himself. When Naruto first did it, nothing happened though. He collapsed. He did all of this. He's done so much that he hasn't even mentioned yet. He saved everyone, allowing them to be happy with their family, their friends. He stopped the wars and the chaos. But the one person that has been there with him since day one wasn't coming back. And he felt even more lonely than before. He spent thousands of years alone, pushing and believing that he would get what he needs in the end, but not having Kurama there, talking to him, being by his side. It was terrible, until the chakras swirled together, creating a perfect imprint, merging with the essence of the now Kurama. While the now Kurama was safely within the dimension that Naruto had created, the copy had imprinted a form of itself, as Naruto had basically saved a copy of him through time and imprinted it within his own, believing that the former self would be there because of the memories in the chakra that he still had. However, Kurama did not come back as himself. He came back as a chubby little baby. What the hell happened to me? Is it really you? Naruto said, tears immediately coming to his eyes. Of course it's me. Why the hell am I so small? And where the hell are we? He said. Wait, What's the last thing you remember? The brother of that woman, sending us to the past. Did we get here okay? Naruto started to chuckle. Hey, what's so damn funny? There's a lot, said Naruto. You've been gone a lot. As Naruto scooped the fox up in his arms and squeezed the living daylight out of him. Time skip. You're telling me that you did all of that by yourself. You isolate yourself for thousands of years training. Yeah, said Naruto. That must have really sucked, said Kurama. You have no idea, Naruto said. It's been a long while since he's been so happy, so rejoiced, so content with everything. However, now, he has to leave them. Leaving behind the name and the legacy of what he created. A distant God watching from the eyes beyond man. You think they will be able to stick to what you've done and don't go back down that path? I'm not sure, said Naruto. But I have to trust them to do this. It's not like I'm not going to return. But by then, everything could have changed. I'm just gonna have to trust them, Naruto said. After which, Naruto made his way to the moon to speak to the others that were there, to disassemble the weapon that they had at their disposal, and to prevent the entire race up there from dying out, so that Teneri doesn't have to be alone. After all, if it wasn't for him, none of this would have been possible. As Naruto was leaving, he didn't mind revealing the future to them on who he was, giving Teneri, as he was alive. He gave him a job to keep a watch on the people down there. You ready, Kurama, said Naruto. I was born ready, Kurama said. For the first time in a long while, Naruto was using his power, saying that he would not until Kurama was brought back. This time though, it was different. The golden aura that overtook Naruto, it was much more powerful. Not to mention with the mark on his forehead, it twisted and curved into it, giving him a sage appearance as well. Naruto took off the moon and blazed through the vast reaches of space, quite aware of where he was going. Breathing not a problem for him anymore, as he left the elemental nation in the hands of the people down there. As he made his way off, time skip. A tall man with blue skin entered a room. Inside of that room was the one that Naruto has been searching to get back with for so long now, hoping that he would be able to convince her. It was Reika. Report, she said. We just received intel back from Sector 24. An unknown individual entered. He turned himself in. He was checked thoroughly, at least 3 times. He posed no threat. However, what is it, she said. He's asking for you. Me? She said, whipping her head around. Time skip. Arriving towards the sector, as Naruto was confined and locked away. They couldn't be less precautious after all. They were going up against a very powerful race who seek their annihilation for their troubles. After all those that betray the Otsutsuki clan must be annihilated. She finally arrived. Her footsteps could be heard echoing through the halls. Prisoners who weren't yet dealt with was kept here. She came to a stop as the massive doors were open. Outside of the elemental nation, technology was a lot more vaster out here. Reika came to a stop as Naruto looked up. She looked into his eyes. She did not know who this was, but he gave her a strange look. Reika, he said. How do you know my name? Who are you? She said. Look, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm not from this time. She watched him very carefully. Explain yourself, she said. I'm from a time where you and everyone here took me in. After the Otsutsukis slaughter my people. And after that, I nearly lost myself in depression, but I was saved by the members of the rebellion force, which I joined. And we worked together. We worked together and prevented a lot of wrongdoings. As Naruto started to explain everything to her, when he said her brother's name, when he said things that she never told a single soul before, not even a person here. As he told her all of this, and told her how he got back, the fact that her brother would ever do something like that, she refused to believe that, given the last time they saw each other. He tried to end her life. She was confused, though how would he know these things? Unless her brother was the one that sent him. As she left the area, not truly believing Naruto despite everything she was told, she had brought someone along with her that overheard everything. This was the man that Naruto called the Sage, the one that told him about affecting time. What do you think, she said? Him being her main advisor. I would like to speak to him. It seems there's a lot to unpack here. And if he is the enemy, that means they're quite aware of the sector location. That means we should change this area just to be safe. I've already put in word for that, she said. They had moved from the first sector to another one, but just to be more safe, they were going to move from this area as well. When Naruto saw the man, he was so happy, seeing him once again. After all, he watched him die when those creatures descend upon the planet. As Naruto stood there, him and him have a rather long conversation. Naruto knew him rather well. He did not directly ask him questions about the past or anything. He just tried to gauge his character to know him. However, the man assumed that Naruto already know him, so he spoke like he already did. He was very smart that way. His name was Omen. Omen released all of the information that he got from his conversation with Naruto. The mere fact that he knows so much about so much of them, giving details that they would only tell someone that they trust. As the group was gathered, someone rushed into the room. He's escaped. What? Reika said, and the others. However, we find Naruto in a very hyperactive room. He did not mean to harm anyone in here as all of them were asleep. This was the location that they used to track the other Otsutsukis, tracking their energy output, allowing them to find the location that they formerly been, which allows specialized members here to track them using a different high-tech sonar wave-like sensor. However, Naruto had made sure that this time around, he would be able to find them on his own, gathering every information that he needed. The door burst down as Reika entered the room, her eyes immediately changing. She was ready to fight. As he looked at her, "Stop where you are," she said, raising her palm. "I love you," said Naruto. No, that took her back. Given their conversation, he's never said that before. And this time around, I'm not just going to stand by and watch you die. I'll finish it once and for all. She realized what he did. At first, she believed that he was giving coordinates, but that wasn't the case as she saw what was on the screen. You're searching for them. Yes, I'll take them on myself. Are you crazy? Do you have any idea what you're about to walk into? Oh, trust me, I know. I know very much. But this time I won't lose anyone else, especially you. I care about you too much. You told me that you will always love me, and I know that you don't remember because you wouldn't, because I'm not from this time. But it doesn't matter. Even if it costs me everything, I will save you and everyone here. I will stop them once and for all. I promise. With that, his body was covered by a golden aura. She felt safe as a warm feeling spread across the room. He smiled at her before taking off, disappearing out of the room. She did not go after him as she raised a hand towards her chest. She had never truly been with someone in a romantic way before. Despite how long she has lived, she's been with someone but never in a way that would express emotion like this. So these feelings came to her strangely. Time skip. There is no turning back now. Kurama said. I know, said Naruto. But I haven't spent the last thousands of years training to turn back now. Alright, let's crack some skulls, he said, as the both of them were blazing through space. Time skip. Gazing down towards a desolate planet was Momoshiki and Kinshiki. As the both of them immediately turned their gaze as they felt something. They both separated as something crashed onto said planet with enough force to cause a global explosion around. Having just harvested the fruit from this planet, storing it away, Momoshiki gazed downwards. What is it? He said. It's a person, Kinshiki said. Naruto floated up to their level. Who are you? Said Momoshiki. This power. It is not familiar. I'm not here to talk, said Naruto. Just to kill you both. Kinshiki immediately created a red axe. How dare you speak to Lord Momoshiki like that? For your words, you will be put to death. He dashed forward as Naruto blocked his axe with his chakra-infused hand. Not this time around, Naruto said as he gripped into it. Both him and Kinshiki raised their fists as their fists caused a violent boom in the air. Momoshiki stood as Naruto took on Kinshiki. His axe swung through the air and sliced as Naruto evaded and dodged. Naruto kicked him so hard that his body was sent into the heavens. He wasn't done yet as he flew, passing the speed and knocked him into the ground. Kinshiki burst out and fired dozens of red beams towards Naruto, creating a blade from pure chakra alone as it was golden. Naruto sliced through them, descending down his axe and blade met. Naruto carved through said axe and kicked Kinshiki across the entire platform. Flying forward, Naruto slammed him through several trees. They were husked and dried up so they shattered. His robe and clothing was torn. However, Naruto disappeared. Momoshiki blinked as Naruto was now above him. Boom! His body slammed into the earth. Momoshiki exploded with so much rage. How dare you, he said. How dare you sully my robes? He ripped off the veil. You insignificant worm. You believe that you are enough to match me. Momoshiki was a very arrogant person, believing that he was untouchable, that he was a being of superior power to anyone that he faced. Kinshiki jumped back in as the both of them attacked him, weaving and dodging under their blows. Naruto sent the both of them sailing, shotting them with Rasengans that left his hand. Both of them were launched in a massive explosion. Naruto held his hand out, about to end it until he felt the chakra combination. Get ready, kid, they're coming. A violent scream from the two now combined together, stepping out of the mist. Immediately, the true infused Momoshiki appeared behind Naruto as Naruto blocked his blow. The ground exploded outwards. Yet he smiled. It seems you're not so pathetic after all. However, in the face of my power, he said, flying to the sky, that is nothing. He created a goddamn bomb that would level everything in his wake. a ball of condensed energy that he launched downwards, with a smile on his face cackling at Naruto's destruction. What he didn't expect was for Naruto to build a Rasengan within a second. A Rasengan that was twice the size. Momoshiki had to fly backwards as the energy spear was sent beyond the heavens. He looked up as he saw the massive explosion, only to look back down as Naruto bested the reaction time of his Byakugan and hit him so hard. The air shook with so many violent explosions. Behaving like Lee as Naruto zipped around him, hitting him at every single point. Despite his fusion, Momoshiki was on the ground, bleeding. He screamed in rage as he created an abomination, a beast, flames and earth. "Don't worry kid, I got this," Kurama said. Kurama power exploded out of Naruto's body as it gripped onto the beast and started to fight, while Naruto flew to Momoshiki as they clashed across the entire planet. Naruto's blows were so powerful that they were causing seismic tremors and events as he was not holding back and Momoshiki stood no chance. Naruto beat the living crap out of him until there wasn't much left. His creation clattered down as he used almost all of his power trying to get Naruto to stand down, to make him bow to wipe out his existence, but Naruto countered everything that he threw at him. One after another, Naruto defused, destroy. Naruto stepped on Momoshiki's back, slamming his face into the ground before kicking him over. That's impossible. There's no way I can lose to you, he said. You're pathetic. You're nothing compared to me. Naruto slammed both hands on his chest as a large spiraling mark spread over Momoshiki. Naruto watched as a spiraling mark started to twist and combine him together. Naruto reached and pulled something out, the chakra fruit, as he held it in his hand. Kurama returned back to him. Momoshiki's body was turned into a fruit itself. The fruit of the both of them combined. That is when Naruto dived into his memories. Flashback. Naruto undid the seal of Kaguya. Being so proficient in Fuinjutsu, Naruto did something rather, impossible. He reduced Kaguya to chakra itself. But it wasn't just her. Remembering what he heard about the other Otsutsuki that he had came for, the one that is known as Ishiki, the one that lived in a realm that was not so far away from the earth. Naruto was able to use his spatial manipulation, similar to what Obito was able to do. Sasuke that is. Open space that were in different dimensions, different planes of existence around him. Having mastered that a long time ago, Naruto found the so-called Ishiki while he was using a body first that did not belong to him. After being unable to best Naruto that way, he reverted back to his true form. A battle that had took place had destroyed the dimension that they were in, the place that he had owned and created. Their power was too much as the place ruptured and cracked. It was destroyed. However, Naruto did not kill him. Instead, he took him. And now, Naruto held 4 objects in his hand. 3 of them being the Otsutsukis, the final being a chakra fruit from this world. Are you sure that this is going to work? This could go horribly wrong, Kurama said. I've spent years preparing myself to be able to do this exact same thing, said Naruto. I'm 99% sure. And what about the 1%? Even as strong as I am, Ishiki and Momoshiki, they're nothing compared to the power of the council. You and I both know that the only way that bastard was able to consume them was because he went after the others first. He's been able to consume many over the years. And that is why strength was even on their level. And I wasn't even able to touch him. I need every single access to power I can get. So yeah, I have to do this. Fine. I knew there was no stopping you, I just wanted to make sure you know what you were doing. So let's do it, said Kurama. Naruto devoured all of them. And nothing happened. At first, I don't think Naruto started to scream. An ungodly amount of power exploded from his core. The entire planet was consumed in this energy. The power ruptured beyond space, rupturing through fluctuations, rupturing through everywhere. At the far, 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 far across the space distance, where she stood, Reika could feel it. A power so terrible, a power so dreadful, but yet, that feeling of warmth was also there as well. What has he done? She said to herself. Meanwhile, the council find themselves standing to their feet. There were 8 of them. And they all felt it. A far distance away, performing experiments in order to boost his own strength. And his own people was none other than Theos. What the hell is this? He said. Every powerful being could feel it no matter where they were. Consuming one chakra fruit was enough to raise your power level to godhood. The problem was, since Naruto was granted immortality by Tenori, not counting the time when he was depressed for so long and not trained or anything, Naruto had gotten better over time. Thousands of years passed by because he could not die. That is why Naruto was so willing to allow things to happen, allow people to die without hesitation, because he was not the same Naruto that he once was. Even Kurama had said it. Naruto power had reached levels far beyond the other Otsutsukis, the normal ones. The council was a different matter though. Their age was something that they themselves did not even remember. And the amount of fruits that they've consumed over the years, given the always expanding universe, they were on levels that not even he at the time could face. Perhaps he could take them on one-on-one, but together they would slaughter him. And given the fact that Naruto had a few more thousand years to train, and this time he was training for a much deeper purpose, and non-stop, Naruto power had become something terrifying. When the smoke and dust clear, his features change, taking on aspects of the Otsutsukis. Long white hair, even his clothing changed as well. His eyes were depicting the Rinnegan. Naruto's body was consumed with so much power. Hey kid, are you still with me? Kurama said, fearing the worst as Naruto was quiet. Don't worry, he said, allowing Kurama to release a sigh. I told you it would work. I just had to separate their mind from their power. Their mind are gone, their power is all mine. Naruto said as his power fluctuated even more, trembling the entire planet. Now it's time. Every single Otsutsuki, even the ones that did not fight, they were just like the ones that fight. They just weren't as special. They just weren't born in the hierarchy of the clan. They were scouts. They were the ones that were seen as lesser beings. Think of them as the branch family of the Hyuga clan. Every one of them felt it as Naruto did not fly there. He warped through space. Even the council gathered on top of the large palace, the throne room where they discussed activities. Every person there gazed to the heavens as they saw him. Naruto gazed down towards all of them and held his hand out. The aura that came from him shook the heavens. The earth split. The ocean waves went violent as he descended upon the planet. Finally reaching towards the destination where he felt the abnormal power was none other than Theos. As he found the essence to track this power, he started to track it back home. By the time Theos got there, flames. The Otsutsukis were very arrogant, so their planet showed that. It was filled with riches, all sorts of things. But now, all that was left was destruction. Where the massive hall, the grand palace where those weaker ones came to beg for requests and all other things, once stood, was now a broken destruction that Naruto was standing on top of. The bodies of the Otsutsukis were not there though, courtesy of Naruto. He had not absorbed them. Within Naruto's dimension there was 15 clones, as they were there to get rid of the bodies. You see, Otsutsukis weren't normal people. When they died, their power did not just go away. Their power will go away in time, but their power remained with them until a certain amount of time when it truly dissipates. As long as their body was not completely destroyed, because they could place their essence into another being, a mark known as a karma. So their power lingered within them for some time. Naruto removed them all, so no one could get their hands on them. The space that he created for the tailed beasts wasn't the only one that he created. Theos blinked and Naruto was in front of him, despite having his back turned to him. Naruto gripped his neck so tight he immediately felt himself unable to catch any air. Otsutsukis were bred differently though, but Naruto gripped onto his throat with enough force, stopping him from doing much. After all these years, I finally have you now, in my sights. Never again would I allow you to take what you took from me, Naruto said to him. 15 minutes. Theos had no idea who this was or what was going on, but for the next 15 minutes, Naruto beat him until there was nothing. With his bare hand, his strength had been maximized to such level that his fists alone were able to break through whatever Theos sent towards him. Throughout that time, Naruto further brought the Otsutsuki planet down to nothing, wiping out continents, wiping away mountains, splitting the earth, wiping away oceans. As Theos lay bloody and defeated at his feet, Naruto formed a Rasengan so large it covered the sky, casting a shadow over almost everything. With enough power, Naruto plunged it down on Theos, completely wiping out the so-called ambassador or celestial yard of the Otsutsukis, wiping every single modicum of landscape away, leaving a barren wasteland. Theos stood absolutely no chance against Naruto. It was over. Naruto collapsed down. As he just sat there, you did it. Hearing the words from Kurama, Naruto actually cried. After everything that he's been through, after the depression that he went through for years, the loneliness, everything, he did it. That was a scene that she arrived to see, as it was common for Otsutsukis being able to warp space around them, and she was no exception after all. She was once one of the royal members. Reika was shocked when she saw the destruction. What happened? Where is the council? Where are they? She said. Did you? Naruto was about to say something until they both turned their head and they saw a fluctuation. The both of them stepped back, confused. What is this? Is this you? Rika said. No, it's not, said Naruto. Hey kid, this is bad. It's him, Kurama said. But that's not possible, Naruto said out loud. What's going on? He's here. The space warped and twisted, and time dilation seemed to be sped up for a second before. Ripping into this space was Virus. However, Naruto just killed Virus. So this one that stood there with his body overflowing with power. This is not possible. How are you here? You're not even supposed to exist, said Naruto. Virus chuckled. Funny. I should say the same thing to you, shouldn't I? You're not supposed to be here. Especially like this. Seeing that I killed you, didn't I? What's going on? She said to Naruto. He's the one. As she turned, despite having her doubts now seen and feeling, this Virus. She knew the other Virus, but this was not him. You think I wouldn't be able to find a way to alter time itself, to prevent myself from being erased? I saw the turtle. A brief second, yes, but I saw it. I figured that this was about time. It was lost during the time fluctuation, but that doesn't matter now, does it? I felt myself. I felt it, a strange occurrence, like I would be erased. So I simply severed my connection to that plane of existence. And look what happened. It brought me here. I suppose if it was anyone else, they would have died instantly. However, you more than anyone else know how strong I am. Naruto stepped back as a man appeared in front of him. Come on now. Are you going to run? You seem to have changed somewhat, up in your game, becoming stronger. But it does not matter now, does it? Rika sent a jab towards him, but with a simple look she was sent across the entire platform. Naruto tried to punch him, but he gripped Naruto's fist and hit him in the stomach so hard. Naruto was thrown from one end to another. He flew towards Naruto and stomped down on him, crushing him where he stood, causing Naruto to cough out blood. Despite the elevating strength that Naruto had received, Virus had absorbed every single person. Naruto only absorbed, 4? But Virus absorbed everyone, the council, and Naruto did not do that. So despite his additional power, Virus' blows were enough to crush mountains with a single swing like it was nothing. So the impact from hitting Naruto with at least 80% of his force was enough to stun Naruto enough. However, refusing to let the same thing happen again, Naruto's power surged as Virus was sent sailing. The both of them started to trade blows, despite the pain that Naruto was feeling in his stomach. The planet could not take it. As she got to her feet, the planet was being ripped apart. Virus and Naruto fly through another dimension. As they flew through another with lava, another with terrible wind, another and another. As they fought, they end up crashing down on a sandy ground. Can't you see that your efforts are pointless? I've become too powerful to be erased. I told you this from day one, that you are nothing to the might of the Otsutsukis. You're just an imitation. A lackluster being that is nothing compared to me, he said, as Naruto was looking quite beaten already. He was much stronger. But this is good, I suppose, that you've brought me here because of your actions. This time, I'll ensure that you die after I make you watch as I erase everyone that you've come to love once again. Naruto's power surged with rage, but even with that, looking around on where she stood, as she could not sense them anymore. She had no idea where they went, as she couldn't find any of them. But Reika knew that this was bad. This virus, she sensed a glimpse of his power, and it felt limitless, like there was absolutely none. This Naruto was strong, but his power paled compared to this monster. He would lose. As she said that, space opened up as Naruto crashed, bloody and beaten. You have to keep in mind that Naruto had a sense of immortality, but yet Virus' power was that strong that it was negating the type of immortality that Naruto had. Virus then proceeded to pull out the spear. The last time, you were able to cling on long enough. With this new power that you have at your disposal, it should keep you alive long enough to witness me wiping away everyone that you've come to love. She did not know why, but her body just moved on its own. She tried to knock the spear out of his hand. She was unsuccessful though, as she was knocked away like she was nothing as she crashed on the ground. No, Naruto was kicked in the face so hard. A seismic boom generated from the force, launching him across the goddamn planet. He crashed in a vast, distant ocean. She was picked up by her throat. She tried to fight him, but her power paled in comparison. He dragged her as Naruto pulled himself out of the water, his body healing much slower. Virus stood there, holding her by the neck. "No, let her go," said Naruto. So disappointing. All of your efforts, all of your time to what? Accomplish my defeat, but you fail. Can't you see that? You pale in comparison. That was all Virus ever wanted. For Naruto to give up. After finding out about Naruto being a part of the rebellion forces, it was Naruto insistent that they would win that kept the others going. If they knew that he died before they engaged, their hope and spirit would be broken. And he became so angry when he took so much away from him, and he still wouldn't give up. No. This can't be happening again, Naruto shouted with frustration and rage. Not again. Not after everything he went through, and this time there would be no going back. This can't. No, he refused to accept this reality. Not after everything he's been through. Naruto's power surged as he ran forward, but Virus sent him sailing back. Naruto's fist collided with the planet. How could he be so weak? After everything, Virus was continuously mocking Naruto. Kurama was not within Naruto at the moment. The time fluctuation did something. The clones that Naruto had sent away, he was trying to access them, to make them give every single Otsutsuki power to him. But he could not breach into that dimension. For what reason, he did not know. It was Virus' attacks. His existence was not supposed to be in this time. He wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't supposed to be happening. Perhaps Virus being here also triggered Naruto's existence into this time that he created, somehow linking him back to their world, which should not even be possible, causing a great big screw up as Naruto found himself cut off to any of his links, fearing about Kurama as he not heard the fox in a while. Naruto was so confused and at the same time losing his shit as he watched the woman that he loved desperately tried to fight off the man that was killing her right in front of him, and he could do what? He could do nothing. Pain and anguish. Finally, Virus said, seeing the break that he wanted, and in seeing that he drive the staff through her. Naruto froze. His whole world seeming to shatter in that moment. The strength left his legs as he collapsed. His eyes empty. His mouth dry. The power that surrounded him immediately vanished. The blade, that spear, was no ordinary weapon. It is said that it could kill anything. Anything. Naruto watched it in the hands of Theos piercing through her. Theos tossed her towards Naruto as Naruto caught her. She was in agony. At the time, Naruto had Kurama power inside of him to save off the disease that the blade spread. No. Naruto held her in his arms. It's no use, she said to him. She looked at him. He was the first person to ever make her feel different. Some romantic attachment, suppose. I still don't truly know if you are to be trusted, she said. But your words, everything that you've said, it seemed to be reality. Perhaps there was a world out there where we fell in love together. And I wish that could have been this one before I met my end. But now, there is no stopping this monster. He's just too powerful, she said. She was speaking the remainder of her heart. There wasn't anything left to hold back. She was going to die. She knew that weapon, a sacred item that was kept away, locked away. It was hard to access it. The fact that he had it made him one of the most dangerous beings in the entire universe. And they just could not beat that. There must be something I can do, said Naruto as he tried. He tried to save her, using his own life energy. He knew what he could do. He could use the blade and sever, but no. He wouldn't have anywhere to send her. Naruto racked his brain, options after options. However, Theos kicked him in the temple. Her body collapsed down to the ground as he stomped on Naruto. As I said, you will watch everyone that you love die. Naruto tried to get up, but he slammed a fist in Naruto's back. Blood and spit flew from his mouth. He picked Naruto up by the back of the head and beat him into the ground until Naruto was broken there. As his body healed, the pain still coursed through him. Theos created 5 black rods and drive them into Naruto, pinning him down to the ground. The problem with that spear was, if someone was hit by it, if the infection claimed their life, it didn't just kill them, it erased them. Yes, their soul would be destroyed. That was the reason that blade was so dangerous. So as Naruto watched her took her final breaths, being unable to do anything about it as her life left her, it broke him. Finally, Theos said. However, as Theos stepped forward, something happened. Space distorted a bit, and a golden energy flew into Naruto. I failed, Kurama, said Naruto, not knowing where the fox was, but he knew that he was back. Kurama quickly understanding what happened. I'm so sorry, kid, he said. Kurama felt the distortion when Theos arrived. Time was out of whack for a moment. Kurama saw something, so he hopped onto it. He knew that Naruto could not beat Theos by himself. So he went to the dimension that Naruto sent the bodies in. In the process, he made every single clone perform the same technique. However, the problem was Naruto was cut off from them, so he could not tell them, so Kurama told them what to do. Once they were done, Kurama devoured all the fruits, allowing him to break space and return back to his wielder because he knew it was only a matter of time. But he was too late. However, every single essence of the entire Otsutsuki race was now inside of Kurama, and it merged with Naruto. The heavens parted. The planet could not withstand the energy. It seeped into the core and the planet ruptured. Theos found himself in space, not affected by the normal comprehension that weaker beings are affected by. He wondered what just happened. That power, where did it come from? It felt great. However, Naruto was not destroyed. Naruto was standing there in space, holding her in his arms, her lifeless corpse. A clone materialized beside Naruto, without any movement from him. He handed her to the clone. "Take care of her," he said. The clone nodded as Naruto made his way forward. "What have you done?" Theos said. "You took everything from me." "Again," said Naruto. "Last time I couldn't do anything about it. But this time..." Theos was sent through the moon. As he found himself moving at the speed of sound through space, his body was hit through the moon. The shadow of the moon, in a representative form, shined down towards the god beneath them, the prophecy. Theos straightened himself up. "What have you done?" he said. "Where did this power come from?" "We're not here to talk," said Naruto. "I have nothing more to say to you. The only thing left is for me to kill you." Theos chuckled. "Like you can do something like that. Stop making false promises," he said. Naruto power raged once again, and Theos was shocked. That's impossible." They fought. Days went by. Weeks went by. Months went by. They fought across the entire known galaxy, stretching out beyond. Their power was limitless. Every single being in the regions could feel the destructive battle taking place, knowing that the victor of this battle would decide the flow of the universe. Months, their power unending, their blows causing cataclysmic sized shockwaves across the vast known universe. Planets were being affected by their attacks as they hover through space. We find the both of them situated on a dead planet, their blows crashing against one another. Their power still so heavy despite fighting for months upon end. Theos and Naruto were giving it everything they got as they split the planet apart. They fought straight down into the core, their blows connecting with one another, causing tremendous damage. Jumping away from one another as they were both in heavily bad condition, they both formed two special attacks. Attacks that were larger than the suns around them. Attacks that was causing displacement in space, rupturing time around them. They flew towards one another and clashed. Their attacks being nameless, but they used every single essence of power that they had left. Theos screamed over the loud chaos. "I am an Otsutsuki! The Otsutsuki! I am the superior being! You're a worm, a maggot, nothing to me," he said. He pumped out more power, sacrificing both of his eyes in the process. The power started to overwhelm Naruto's. Naruto could feel himself losing. "Remember," Kurama voice whispered into his mind. As Kurama gave up the last essence of his power. "No, don't do it," said Naruto. "You can't." "You need to push," Kurama said. "But I'll lose you. I can't lose anyone else. Please, don't." Both of them were in the mindscape as Naruto was begging the fox. Despite Naruto consuming the entire Otsutsukis, Theos had done the same. And Theos had already been tremendously powerful because of his own experiments to elevate himself to a godly level. Thus, their power was even, it seems. Every single one of Theos' creations had been reabsorbed back into him when coming to this time. Not to mention the reason why his power was still being even with Naruto despite all of Naruto training was Theos had absorbed every single 10 tails. And there was hundreds of them, starting from their pods and their seeds. He absorbed every power. That was just a testament to how strong Naruto had become. And Kurama knew that Naruto needed the push. That is why he was going to relinquish every ounce of himself with Naruto. I know that you lost her, Kurama said. However, there is still hope, he said, looking towards Naruto. Over the years, I've come to see you more than just my friend. You're my family. And what's the point if you can't sacrifice your life to save the ones that you love? And without you, there is no universe left for the other people. And I know that you desire to stop all of this nonsense and keep those that you love around you safe. I'm sorry I wasn't able to reach in time. But I love you, Kurama said. And I always will. Because you, Naruto Uzumaki. You're my brother, he said. Naruto cried out as Kurama power flooded into him. The remaining push. Naruto power flickered red for a moment as Theos felt it. What is? Naruto released a violent scream. The blast overtaking Theos. And his blast. Impossible. Theos said as he was swallowed by the cataclysmic blast that ruptured through space, ripping apart everything around them. Naruto was falling from the sky, hovering in space, on the verge of blacking out as Theos was ripped to sunders, his entire essence removed. The both of them had sunk their entire power into that. Theos' body could not keep up with the remaining force, and thus he was wiped away, erased from this entire timeline, erased from existence. As Naruto's eyes closed. When Naruto woke up, the old sage was there. Where am I? We found you drifting through space, on the verge of death. We brought you back. You were severely lacking energy. However, none of us has the capability to refill your energy containers, he said, looking towards Naruto. You've been unconscious for a couple of weeks. Naruto pulled himself up. A horrifying realization hit him. She's really gone, isn't she? Knowing exactly who he was talking about from what he told him. Yes. However, I'm sure that she would be happy to know that you not only saved the people that she's come to see as a part of her family, but you've saved the entire universe from a threat that could annihilate it or enslaved it. Yeah, I suppose I did, said Naruto. He saved the universe, but in the process, he lost the two most important people to him. We've placed her body in stasis, knowing that you wish to say your final goodbyes before anything else. Naruto tried to get up, but he almost fell. He was helped up though. As he was helped out of the room, the others saw him with respect, nothing but respect. Naruto was brought to an area. I'll give you some time alone. Naruto broke down immediately. He saved the universe, saved everything, but in the end, he's lost everything. Tears just poured out of his eyes as he looked at her corpse. Perfectly intact. Her body was put into a status field, allowing her to remain perfect. However, her soul was gone. Her existence was wiped away. Naruto slammed his head down on the table, feeling pain as he did so. He was still fragile and weak. What's the point? The two people that he loved the most was gone. He saved everyone else, yes. But he lost everything in the process. His heart quaked. His insides twist. As Naruto cried. Unknowingly, something abnormal happened. Yes, something strange. A strange particle started to emerge from him, from the depths of his soul. He did not even notice. The next moment, it flew into her. The stasis field started to quiver and shake, which alerted him. When Naruto looked up, he saw her finger twitch. He blinked in shock. What? He looked at her, not understanding. Rika? He said in shock. When her eyes fluttered open, Naruto gasped, stepping back. How was this possible? The spear. It wiped away the person's soul. They could not be revived. Naruto? She said, trying to get up but falling as Naruto caught her. The both of them stumbled to the ground. I thought I would never see you again. She kissed him. How is this possible? How are you alive? Said Naruto. As he looked at her, she kissed him once again. Not having much time for words, and Naruto leaned into the kiss, enjoying every single moment of it. Her body was perfectly healed. She was alive. Entering inside the room after hearing the ruckus, the old sage was confused. She's been dead for weeks. What the hell was going on? They had tried to bring her back somehow, but it wasn't possible. Moments later, the three were able to figure out what happened. She was not the Rika from this time. She was the one from his. You see, when she had severed Naruto's connection by saving his life with her soul had mingled with his. It saved him and purified his body, allowing him to pass through without the infection, but it also attached itself to him. This was very crazy, but it was because of her love. Her attachment was so strong that it clung on to him. And for the longest time she's been there in his soul. She herself was not quite aware of any of this, neither was he. However, with her body now in need of one, that soul fragment emerged from Naruto, seeking the vessel that was so similar to hers. And Naruto's own soul that was strong enough to revive those people from the dead was able to purify her body, as the poison had already killed her. So it was easy to purify and bring her back, returning her flesh healthy. And her soul was the one that Naruto knew and loved. When she said the word, I'm your thunder flower, Naruto cried some more as he held on to her and kissed her. He kissed her with everything that he had. Yes, he did. She was also sad to hear about what happened to Kurama. The people were shocked when they saw her alive. She remembered knowing that most of them had died, but seeing them here, she was so happy. Time skip. A lot happened. For one, Naruto brought her to one of his dimensions where her brother was bound and tied. This was her brother from this time. Naruto did not slaughter all the Otsutsukis. He kept him alive for her. They just had to rehabilitate him. just like they did before, and it was going to take some time. The one that helped Naruto save the entire universe was in need of a big gesture. An entire planet was dedicated to the both of them. The entire universe knew their name. People far and wide as the rumors and news spread. After all, Naruto and Vero's clashing had shaked so many. There was a monument that spanned the widest of the elemental nation on a planet that was 10 times bigger, of Kurama, the plaque that read, "The Universe Savior." Naruto did not care much for the credit. If it wasn't for Kurama, everyone would have perished. As Naruto stood there, he often visited this place. He went back to visit the elemental nation. Yes, there was a few skirmish and there were some problems, but there wasn't any global event. The people learned to coexist together and live together. And because of the lack of war and the lack of power to throw around, they actually started to work together. Naruto had to leave though because it was no longer his home. There were still those that worship his name, even after all these years. As Naruto stood at the plaque, smiling up towards his dearest friend, "Dad!" Turning around, Naruto saw a young girl run towards him. She ran towards him with a smile on her face. She jumped into his arms. It was his daughter, but she wasn't alone. His 7-year-old son was also coming over to them, named after his dearest friend. Behind them was his stunning wife, having gotten married some time ago, now starting a family. Things were every now and again problematic, but Naruto was the strongest being in the entire universe. Yes, he was. Naruto knew that there was existence beyond this one. Existence that Shinobi Otsutsuki had went to, but he didn't care. This was his home. This was where his family was. And he loved every moment of it. Becoming so powerful gave him the choice to live with his family, and even allow him to die when the time finally comes. Now that she was no longer consuming those pills that was the Otsutsuki making, she would start to age as well. It will be a very, very long time. However, they both believe that it was a natural cycle. Especially for Naruto, he's been alive for a long time now. And he was happy because with limited time, you would truly get to cherish each and every moment. And none of this would have been possible without his brother Kurama. "I love you, buddy," said Naruto. But guys, let me end up right here. Yes guys, I hope you guys enjoy. As you already know, new movies, new series, so yeah, stay tuned for those. And yes, I've not cancelled anything, so nothing to worry about. So I hope you guys enjoy this movie, but I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.